All right, let's dive right in. Welcome back to The Explainer. We're always looking at complex industry data to find those really clear, actionable takeaways. And today, well, we are looking at a monumental economic projection that's literally rippling through the global healthcare space right now. We're talking about India's medical technology sector and a financial horizon that is just staggering in its sheer scale. So, if you're into global markets, healthcare innovation, or supply chain economics, you're definitely going to want to pay close attention to the momentum we're about to unpack.
Just look at that number for a second. $35 billion. That's a 3, a 5, and 9 zeros. We aren't talking about some mature, century-old industry just coasting on historical momentum here. No, we are talking about a projected valuation for India's MedTech sector by the year 2030. To put that into perspective, this represents a massive, accelerated vertical climb from where the market currently sits today. This isn't just steady, incremental growth. It's a gold rush. And a gold rush means a sudden, massive influx of international eyes and capital on a previously much quieter sector. It means billions in investment, sweeping infrastructural changes, and honestly, a complete reimagining of domestic and global manufacturing capabilities in a highly specialized field. So here's a roadmap for today. We'll be unlocking the MedTech horizon, looking at the 35 billion boom, mapping out the road to 2030, and finally breaking down exactly why this matters globally. Starting off with part 1, unlocking the MedTech horizon and really defining our foundation here. Now, the crucial first step is defining our terms, right? MedTech, or medical technology, is a massive umbrella. It basically encompasses the hardware, the equipment, and the digital solutions used to diagnose, monitor, or treat medical conditions. Just to be super clear, we aren't talking about pharmaceuticals or drug discovery here. We're talking about the physical tools. That's everything from the digital thermometer you grab when you've got a fever, all the way up to multi-million-dollar MRI machines and highly advanced surgical robotics. It's the literal physical tooling of modern medicine. And it's exactly this specific hardware and device sector that's poised for the explosion we're looking at today. Moving right along to part 2, the 35 billion boom, and how we're actually projecting this growth. So where exactly is this massive projection coming from? Well, this entire forecast stems from a recent highly cited report by Bain. They're one of the top management consulting firms in the world, and they stated point blank that medtech opportunities in India could reach $35 billion by 2030. When an organization like Bain publishes a projection of this magnitude, it acts as a massive signal flare to global investors, policymakers, and industry leaders everywhere. And notice the specific use of the word opportunities there. It doesn't just mean current sales or immediate revenue. It means the total addressable market. It encompasses the potential for totally new manufacturing hubs, deep research and development investments, and sweeping export capabilities. Seriously, the delta between today's estimated baseline and that 2030 projection is just astounding. Getting to that $35 billion mark requires an incredibly steep, almost vertical climb in market size. You don't achieve that kind of trajectory by just doing business as usual, right? It implies that the market isn't just going to grow organically over time. Instead, it's going to be supercharged by aggressive external investments, strategic government incentives, and a massive scale-up in domestic production capabilities. We're essentially talking about a complete architectural overhaul of an entire industry, all designed to meet an unprecedented target. Which brings us to part 3, the road to 2030, and how you actually scale an industry like this. Okay, so how exactly does an emerging market fundamentally transform its industrial base to hit a target like that? Well, the chronological timeline to make this a reality kicks off with a baseline assessment phase, which is happening right now. This is where the really crucial groundwork is laid, where policies are aggressively drafted to attract foreign direct investment, and where local companies start upgrading their manufacturing standards to meet strict global compliance. Then, we jump to the critical midpoint around 2027. This is the innovation acceleration phase. And guys, this is truly the make or break period. For the 2030 projection to actually hold true, this middle phase has to see local R&D starting to yield proprietary technologies. It's that vital shift from merely assembling parts for other companies to actually inventing and owning the intellectual property. Finally, we reach 2030. That is the realization of the $35 billion horizon, where the market has theoretically fully matured into a global powerhouse.
Now, what's really fascinating about this breakdown is the sheer diversity of the actual drivers. Because let's be real, you can't build a $35 billion industry on just one product line. It takes a highly diversified portfolio. This growth is expected to be fueled by diagnostics, so think of the millions of testing kits, reagents, and lab equipment needed every single day. Then there's imaging equipment, covering everything from CT scans and X-rays to ultrasounds. We also have wearables, which merge consumer tech with health monitoring, basically feeding our global obsession with checking our daily step counts and heart rates. And then, all the way at the high end of the spectrum, you have surgical robotics, which is highly complex, high-margin machinery. But perhaps the absolute most vital component is global supply chain integration. This entire boom is fundamentally dependent on India seamlessly integrating its rapidly expanding factories right into the broader, complex web of global medical supply logistics.
All of which naturally leads us to ask the big question. How does a $35 billion emerging market actually impact you? If you're sitting in North America or Europe or really anywhere else outside of India, it is incredibly easy to look at these numbers as just abstract regional data. But in our hyper-connected world, a market expansion of this sheer size creates a massive, undeniable ripple effect.
And that brings us to part 4, why this matters globally.
There's a really fascinating contrast here between the local mechanics and the global healthcare impact. Locally, hitting this target means building massive new factories, creating thousands of highly skilled engineering and manufacturing jobs, and significantly boosting domestic GDP. But globally, that's where economies of scale kick in. When a country scales its manufacturing to this unprecedented degree, it fundamentally drives down the cost of production. If high-quality MedTech devices can be produced more efficiently and affordably in a newly scaled market, well, it introduces fierce, healthy competition worldwide. This can potentially lower the cost of vital healthcare equipment across the globe, making life-saving technologies so much more accessible. And on top of that, it diversifies the global supply chain. That means the world becomes way less reliant on just 1 or 2 regions for critical medical equipment, making the entire global healthcare system significantly more resilient against any future disruptions.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Will other emerging markets follow this $35 billion blueprint? If India successfully navigates the incredible complexities of scaling a highly regulated, high-tech industry like MedTech in just a few short years, they're going to have written a definitive playbook. It really challenges us to look at the global economic map and wonder who's next. This blueprint for rapidly scaling medical technology could completely reshape global healthcare access, affordability, and innovation for generations to come. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep your eyes on that horizon.